Hello and welcome to Is This the Norm? I'm Heather. And before we get started, make sure that you give us 5 stars wherever you listen to us. You can also follow us on Instagram and Facebook and give us a like and a follow there too. All right.
Welcome. This is Rebecca.
Hello, everybody. I'm Lora. So today I have for you a little bit and some information on orca, or better known as killer whales, which are technically a dolphin, not a whale. The name killer whale comes from sailors who saw them killing whales and called them killer whales or also assassin whales. And over time, the words got swapped. They are the largest dolphin family, and among these species, there are several ecotypes. Side note, porpoises are not dolphins. Although they look like dolphins, they are more closely related to narwhals and belugas. And I bring this up because I always thought porpoise was the scientific name for the dolphin species. Silly me. Also, side note number 2, there are 2 types of porpoises that are black and white colored with similar markings to killer whales. They are the spectacled porpoise and the Doll's porpoise. I didn't know there were other species out there with this unique black and white coloring, but the 2 porpoises are significantly smaller than orca, so you wouldn't get them confused. Anyways, I just thought those were interesting little side notes that I wanted to kind of bring up. So, all right, back to orca. There are about 9 different ecotypes of orca in the world, and they differ by their genetics, how they communicate, and how they eat and hunt. There are 3 ecotypes of orca in the Pacific, which are resonant, transient, and offshore. Then there are 4 in the Antarctic that are type A, B, C, and D. And also there are 2 other ecotypes, one being in the Far East near Russia and Japan, and the Atlantic type 1 and 2 that reside in the northern Atlantic. These ecotypes do not interbreed and are classified by their habitat, like where they live and hunt. So they're classifying tiers with ecotypes at the top, then clans, then lastly pods. The further down the tier you go, the more closely related the orca are. So ecotypes are classified by their habitat, like I mentioned above. Then clans are classified by their language or dialect. And a pod is their immediate tight-knit family, which is led by the matriarch. So let's talk about how the orca in the Pacific live. These orca have had the most research done on them, and we know the most about them. So let's start with resident orca, as they have been studied the most of the Pacific orca. In fact, they've been studied and tracked since the 1970s. The resident orca that stay along the coastlines feed on fish and have a strong social unit that is led by the oldest female, who stays with them their entire life. They have pod sizes anywhere from 10 to 30 orca, all the way up to 50 in one pod. So the matriarch teaches them how to hunt, where to hunt, and also their unique dialect. She's not only the boss, but also the brain of the outfit. She's the one with the lived experience and memory from her ancestors that have passed this knowledge down to her, which, I don't know, that gives me just a happy heart
Me too.
and
I was
some
like,
good feel tingles, right? It feels
she's a
relatable.
boss. She's a boss.
Yeah, but also like the love and care that it takes to build a
Right.
relationship, to teach another family member that. It makes me think of making pastries with my children
Right.
or
That's
cooking in
exactly
the
what I was thinking.
kitchen or coloring with them or practicing their ABCs, right?
Mhm.
Life skills that are going to be important to them. And it also makes me think of my grandpa who taught me those things and so on and so forth. So, anyways, the entire pod leans on her to remember specific feeding grounds that she has recorded, like a map of where her relatives took her when she was younger. It's kind of like a very intricate photographic type memory is kind of how it's described. Different clans of orca speak a different language, and it's the role of the matriarch to pass this down to her kin. Each clan has limited communication, if any at all, between each other because of this it's very specific to the pod. Resident orca are also known for being very picky eaters. In fact, they are salmon-eating orca, and they will only eat certain species of salmon on their list of fish to eat. Some say they eat like toddlers. For instance, there's a group of orca that live in the Salish Sea. They eat only Chinook salmon.
I mean, I get it. That like makes sense. It's much like humans, where they live, they only eat certain types of foods, right?
Yeah,
You
they just
know.
like have a flavor profile,
Right.
or maybe that's just like this is what grandmama taught us, so this is
Right.
what we're gonna eat. You know,
Mhm.
I didn't do a
Where
lot of research as to why, but just that they do, and maybe they don't even know why. There's a lot we don't know about orca.
Yeah.
where are the resident orcas?
Yeah,
Like,
so
are they
this is
all
what I'm
over?
getting into.
Yeah, there's 2
Um,
different ones, I think.
so like I just said, there are these resident orca are in the Salish Sea. And so I'm going to kind of get into like for those who don't know, because I didn't know this, the Salish Sea is that inlet of ocean in the Pacific Northwest that encompasses the Strait of Fuca, which comes in from the Pacific Ocean. That's the inlet that brings the water in. The Strait of Georgia coming from Canada and the Puget Sound within Washington State. I didn't know this, and I was born and raised in Washington State. So how
Same.
embarrassing is that? I think I didn't
Right.
know it
I
was
just
called the
knew.
Salish Sea because we always just called it the Puget Sound since
Yeah,
that's
Right.
the area of the sea that's closest to Washington State, right?
exactly.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so
That's where I got confused too when I was reading
yeah.
about this a long time ago. I was like, Salish Sea? I was like, "Wait a
What
minute."
is that?
Yeah. Oh, Puget Sound. Oh, okay.
So the Salish Sea is also where our mom got to see an orca when she was on a boat trip within the Puget Sound. Just a cool side note. The captain said that it was a rare sighting for that time of year, so she got lucky. Anyhow, depending on the ecotype, some orca are considered endangered and some are not because of different factors such as depletion of food, pollution, and injury from fishing boats. We eat a lot of the same food as orca do, and they eat a very specific food, so it can quickly become scarce for them. So let's talk about how much these orca eat. An adult orca needs to eat anywhere from 3 to 5% of its body weight daily to survive. A male orca can weigh anywhere from 8,000 to 12,000 pounds, and a female can weigh anywhere from 3 to 8,000 pounds. So, one adult male orca needs about 400 to 600 pounds of food daily, and an adult female needs 150 to 400 pounds daily. I looked up what an average Chinook salmon weighs, and they're about 20 to 30 pounds. So, that's somewhere between 10 and 30 salmon daily for each orca. So about 3,500 to 11,000 salmon a year for one adult orca. And remember, some of these orca can be up to 50 in a pod. So
Yeah, I
it's a
remembered you
lot.
saying that. I'm like, holy moly, they got to be really good at fishing.
Hmm. And with that, because they say that they eat like toddlers and they're very
Right.
focused on one
Certain
particular
food.
food, it makes me
Yeah.
wonder how many chicken nuggets my youngest eats in a year
Right.
because she's a picky eater. If you put all the chicken nuggets she's ate in her life in one pile, it's probably the size of an orca.
Right. I was wondering, like, I didn't know Chinook salmon were that big.
Yeah, me neither.
Because
Yeah,
I'm
that's
They're
thinking
large.
huge.
that's a lot of
Yeah.
salmon, but then I was like, well, I mean, it's still a lot of salmon regardless. But I was like, well, that's good. I can see why they go after Chinook salmon. Not, maybe it's flavor. I don't know why, but they're big.
Well, and also I wonder too, I didn't really touch on this, but this is just left in my brain from long ago because I went down an orca rabbit hole. I'm fascinated by them. But like it they gotta eat something that has like very little bone and a lot of meat to make it worth their hunt. So
Yeah.
I think that's a lot of times why they gravitate towards like seal and fish and whatnot, because they can't be eating things that are really bony, like, that's the primary reason why they won't eat humans is, like, we're not even worth the trouble.
Yeah, we're not at
We're really
all.
I wish they
bony.
would eat some humans. I got a few on my list, but,
We're,
"Come
is
meet
what
my
it
pet
is.
orca, he's real friendly, real friendly."
we're like spinach to them. We're
Yeah.
bleh.
So, resident orca, male and female, stay within their natal pod and never leave. But to keep genetic diversity, pods will mate outside of their clan. They can identify relatives by smell and vocalizations, which helps prevent mating with closely related relatives. Mating usually occurs when different clans cross paths, and on very rare occasions, a male orca will leave his pod temporarily to seek an unrelated mate. But this is rare that a male orca will leave his pod, and it is temporary only to mate. Most mating occurs when two pods from different clans cross paths and a female is in estrus. Estrus is when a female orca is fertile and willing to mate. What we say for dogs, like going into heat. Females go into estrus several times a year, and it can last around 40 days. Also, a male orca is called a bull, a female is called a cow, and a baby is called a calf. Pregnancy for an orca is anywhere between 15 and 18 months, and her calf nurses for 1 to 2 years. So, on average, a female orca has a calf every 5 years, but can be as frequent as every 3 years or as long as every 10. Female orca also hit menopause around the age of 40 and live an average from 50 to 80 years, although there have been female orca who have lived 90 years. And most female orca don't have their first viable calf until age 15. So there isn't a huge window of time for reproduction. And this also contributes to the risk of endangerment of orca. A male orca lives on average 30 years, but some have lived up to 50 to 60 years. They
That's a
live.
huge difference.
Mhm,
Like, I thought humans, there's a difference between men
mhm,
and women, but that's like a 30-year difference, like the
yeah.
average.
But it
That's a
makes
huge
sense
difference.
since
Yeah,
they can't have babies as often. I thought it would be more often. I didn't know they were pregnant that long.
and the males don't live as long because they have higher metabolic demands and they compete with other male orcas. And also, male orcas don't reach sexual maturity until around 10 to 13 years. So they really don't have a long time to mate either.
But do they really ever mature?
Probably not. I mean, we won't get into that. You can take it however you want, audience.
Different research project.
Oh. Okay, so then there are also transient orca, also known as Bigg's orca, named after Dr. Michael Bigg, who first discovered the migrating behaviors of this group of orca. We're going to call them transient orca, not no. They feed on mammals such as seals, sea lions, porpoises, and whales. They do come in along the coastlines, but are not restricted to any specific location as our resonant orca. They travel as far up as Alaska and as far south as California. Their mating culture is similar to resonant orca, mating outside the immediate family lines, and the female orca rearing the calf and keeping it in her pod for a lifetime. These orca have similar pod sizes from 2 to 6 orca per pod, and this small pod size is to help reduce noise interruption and increase stealth during hunting. Then there are offshore orca, which have the least amount of research for, obvious reasons. They live way out in the deep sea. They're known for having large pod sizes, ranging anywhere from 25 to 80 pod members. These guys eat large fish and sharks and lean on larger pod sizes to help coordinate hunting. These larger animals, and scientists also believe that the larger pod size may add extra protection in the open sea. Because they live out in the open sea, they're difficult to find and the least studied of the Pacific orca.
Yeah, who's gonna mess with 50 orcas, Like,
Yeah.
that safety in numbers, like,
Yeah.
no no animal out there is gonna mess with them,
Mhm.
right?
For sure.
Yeah, I don't know if you're going to talk about this, Laura. You might, but how they hunt
Mhm.
shark is
Yep.
pretty impressive.
Yeah, I don't specifically touch on shark, but how they hunt in general. So, yeah, I'll get there, and then maybe you can add into that with the shark. That'd be great. Okay, so before I talk about the last 2 ecotypes, I do wanna talk about how orca in general hunt. Here we are. They're highly intelligent apex predators that use problem-solving skills to hunt and communicate. They've been using strategies such as herding and carousel feeding, which is swimming in circles around fish to put them into a tight bowl. Then they take a tight ball. Then they take turns driving through the ball and eating them. The thought of this technique gives me nightmares. Like, how scary. These little fishies are trying to get into a tight space to feel safe and then just gobbled up. So sad. But anyways, they also use techniques like wave washing to hunt sea lions. They swim in a tight formation, creating a wave to knock prey off the ice or break the ice. They often repeat this wave washing motion and adjust accordingly depending on the outcome of the last wave's results. Again, highly intelligent and good at solving skills. I was watching some documentary long ago, I don't remember, of orca actually doing this, and this poor little seal just panicking and trying to get away, and then here comes the next wave, and they get him. It's like, oh, its last moments are terrified. So sad. They will also ram prey and use body slapping to stun their prey. A very small group of orca hunt by hunting right along the beach in shallow water. They swim into the shallow water and beach themselves with more than half their body out of the water to get prey along the shoreline. This hunting technique is performed by resident orca from the Peninsula Valdez of Argentina, the Crozet Islands. Am I saying that correctly? And parts of the Antarctic Peninsula, where they have gently sloping beaches and large seal populations that make this highly dangerous technique worth their trouble. It has about a 50% success rate. The skill is passed down from adult orca. It is not an instinctive hunting skill, and the skill is practiced early with young orca and requires specific tidal conditions and knowledge of wave pattern, the layout of the beach, precise timing, and good body control. Not all orca within even one pod is equipped to perform this hunting technique. They start training once the orca is over 1 year old, and it takes several years to master, up to 10 years. In fact, not only until then do they participate in an actual hunt. Some orca are ready before the 10-year mark, but they do ease the individual into hunting. They go from practicing on empty beaches to monitored hunts to mastery. It's pretty
That
wild.
is so impressive.
Yeah.
I had no idea about that.
Yeah. And when they start these babies hunting, I'm not sure if everyone gets a shot to try, but everyone who tries doesn't continue to learn. So if they make mistakes or they look kind of like sketchy or like they're not catching on well, they won't let them continue to learn to hunt that way. So it's not like everybody in the pod can learn, only specific ones who show, the skill to be able to do that continue on. And so all orca pods will do this. Like if they hunt, they share. So they'll get the seal and they'll bring it to their pod and share.
If they are, like, hunting by beaching themselves and they, like, get stuck, can I assume that, like, their fellow pod members, they can't rescue them, right?
Right.
Yeah,
That's why they're so strict with who learns it,
right.
because they'll die.
Yeah. No,
Yeah.
nothing, if you get stuck, nobody can help you. I'm sure, like, if there's some random humans, I know humans have helped them before, but,
Mm-hmm.
you gotta get lucky that you have some humans that are willing to do it because
Or humans that
they're
find
huge.
you,
Right.
down
Exactly.
like near the Antarctic. How many
Right.
humans are there?
Not very many.
Yeah. So, okay, so let's move on to the ecotype of orca in the Antarctic, which eat minke whales and humpback whale calves, which hurts my heart.
Oh,
Yeah,
rude.
I know. But these are probably the whales those sailors from long ago noticed and where the name killer whale originated. So let me skip over to this marine biologist down in New Zealand. Her name is Dr. Ingrid Natasha Visser, that swims with orca. She's been studying orca since the 90s and has learned that orca are actually endangered rather than common, as the New Zealand government once thought. Through her research, she has since moved the New Zealand government to put the orca on a critically endangered list. So now the orca can be protected and conservation efforts can exist for these animals. She is unique because she gets in the water and swims alongside them. I watched a documentary a while ago and there were clips of her swimming side by side with them, and she looks like a mouse next to an elephant. It's amazing.
Yeah,
They're huge.
that's brave.
Yeah. There's several documentaries featuring her, and I don't recall which one I watched because it was a couple years ago, but dedicated her entire life to these animals. It's just heartwarming. And as far as I know, she's the only one that gets in the water with them. But also, speaking of another heartwarming story, there's another story that's not only heartwarming, but also heartbreaking. It's a resident orca of the Salish Sea named Tahlequah. She gave birth to a calf in 2018 named Tahlequah. Unfortunately, short after birth, the calf died. The mother carried her calf on her nose for 17 days before releasing it. Other members of her pod also took turns carrying the calf during the 17 days. This story became viral and touched the hearts of many, but the truth is that this is normal behavior of orca mothers. It is considered a phase of mourning, and the time period is different for each calf lost. After her loss in 2018, she did have a calf in 2020 and one in 2024 with another loss in 2025. She carried this calf for a total of 10 days in mourning. And this, to me, just solidifies the tight-knit familial bonds that these highly intelligent animals have. I won't get into it. I think most people know how devastating it is to have these animals in captivity. If you don't know, do some research. Do not support SeaWorld. I struggle with animals in captivity, to be honest. I do think that sanctuaries for animals is great, but to capture animals for human entertainment is a hard pill for me to swallow. There is video footage of the orca Tahlequah being captured. Just YouTube it. It's horrifying. His family is screaming for him as they capture him and take him away. It turns my stomach in knots. There's also a documentary called Blackfish, which you can watch, and it also has information on captive orca. It's a controversial documentary, but it's very interesting. You know, these animals are intelligent. They will stop a baby orca from doing a dangerous hunt or learning a dangerous hunt because they love them and they care for them. They share their food with each other. They stay with their pod for life. You know, there's more to them than just being a fish out in the water. Also in captivity, when they'll put different orca from different clans together, they can't even communicate with each other. There's no bonding there. They swim next to each other, but they don't have a relationship. It would be like me trapped in a room with somebody from, Portugal. I don't speak Portuguese, so I'll get off my soapbox, but do your research, make informed decisions before you support certain things. So,
Oh, yeah. It's bad. Get your box of tissues. Like when I know exactly
yeah,
when you're talking about with Tillicum. I had to take a break from watching, I think it was Blackfish,
yes,
because I was so upset and like, because when you're a mom, I mean, any parent, right? Like, but as a mother, I just feel like I know that if I remember correctly, his mom was like, it was bad, and that's like, they're going to remember that. They're going to,
mm-hmm,
they don't have psychologists to go see and get through that.
mm-hmm,
They're wild
yeah.
animals, highly intelligent wild animals.
And one of the men who helped capture Tillicum actually participates in an interview, and he's like, remorseful and feels bad. And looking back, he's like, it was so wrong. And he said that he could like hear his pod screaming for him. You think back at this mama who, had a stillborn baby, or her baby died shortly after birth, and she's carrying it around and, you know, mourning it. There's no way they didn't mourn him. And also, Tillicum ended up through his life killing 3 people. And in the wild, there's never been, not once, a reported death of, a killer whale killing a human. So I don't think they like to be captive.
No, it's so sad. And then Keiko, I think is his name, is the one where we talk about where he was in Mexico and then he went eventually to Oregon so they could do Free Willy.
Mm-hmm.
And he's a very sweet whale. And he actually ended up, because he came from Iceland, and they took him back to Iceland to try to
Mm-hmm.
reintegrate him. And they did all these things. And I mean, he was partially able to integrate but he was on his own because like every time he tried to communicate with another family, it didn't work out. So they would
Yeah,
have to
he
take
was
him on like
lost.
sea walks pretty much, where he'd follow the boat and they would take him out and, he'd go back to this bay. And he actually ended up in New Zealand. And you can look this up. There's like videos, I think, where he became part of that community in New Zealand with humans, and humans could ride on his back.
Yeah,
So like
he
he
didn't.
never was able to reintegrate because all he knew was humans. And so like that tells you a lot too, is like they learn from a very small age, like, what's my life gonna be like?
And
And he was always
also,
a very
he
sweet boy, so
he didn't live very long in the wild either.
he
I
died
think
at
it was only like
27.
yeah, it was only a very short period, and he died of like pneumonia.
Yeah, they're pretty sure that's what it was. They weren't sure. They kinda started seeing him do, I think they, like, kinda swim in like a, like, I don't know, very slow, they're just getting their body's starting to shut down, so they noticed that he
Hmm.
was getting close to dying, but
I think
I
they
thought that was
also
interesting that
buried
he's
him on land.
did they?
I was like,
Mhm.
I don't know how to feel about that.
Yeah, I just thought it was weird that he went back to humans and wanted to let them ride on his back. I was like,
Well, that's all
"Poor
he
sweet
knows.
boy."
Yeah, you see pictures of like people just swimming in the bay, sitting on this killer whale. Like that's
Yeah,
not right. That's not
no.
natural. This
Well,
poor
SeaWorld
baby.
was breeding them. So
Yes.
was he one of the ones that were bred?
No, he was
Like,
stolen from Iceland.
oh,
That's
okay.
why they brought him back to Iceland,
Oh,
because
yeah,
that's where
that
he was
okay.
stolen from. I'm not gonna say anything other than that he was kidnapped.
Oh, yeah, absolutely, that's what they were doing. They did stop
Yeah, because
acquiring them from the wild because of that mainly that movie, Blackfish, put a
mhm.
halt to all the crap that was going on basically because that it
Well, I
was
know
a
SeaWorld
huge
doesn't do it
controversy.
anymore, but is there any other countries that have,
Oh,
killer
probably.
whales in captivity that they're
I
showing
wouldn't be
off?
surprised.
I
Yeah, I
think
wouldn't be
so.
surprised.
As far as I remember from Blackfish, I think they do go into that like,
Yeah, if
you know,
humans can make money doing something, they
yeah.
don't really care who they hurt, they're gonna do it,
Mhm.
some of them.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's why I
so they don't do it,
refused.
so it's basically the last there's, like, 16 to 18 orcas at SeaWorlds that once they die, they won't have any more orcas.
Yeah. Well, you can't put them back. I mean, once you've
No.
stolen them, you can't. I mean, Keiko's a prime example. I mean, so much money was spent trying to help him out, and I think that they did the best they could with what they had, but I
Oh
mean, it's
yeah,
just
they went up north towards the Antarctic and they walled off like a big section of the sea to like
yeah.
acclimate him
Yeah,
and
that's right.
try and teach him how to hunt. Like they did
Mhm.
what they could, but that would like be like sending me out in the Amazon forest. I couldn't
Right.
survive
How
that.
scary for him,
Yeah.
I can imagine. Yeah, they did, like, a netting, and then, yeah, I remember hearing about the
Mhm.
wall situation. I forgot about that, but he did try to, like, integrate and was kind of, like, bullied, and
Mhm.
so
Well, he's a
which is
weirdo. He like hangs out with humans. That's weird.
yeah, I mean, I get it. They're like, "Who are you? Get out of here."
So if you want to see an orca, get on a boat near the Salish Sea and see if you can see one there, or you can watch it on Discovery Channel. You could watch Dr. Visser swim with orca in their natural environment. That's the best way to view them, in my opinion. We don't need to
Wait,
put them in a
Agreed.
pool. That's
yeah,
messed up.
100%.
So,
They're so
And there's
beautiful.
something very it's very, like you feel like you're in a National Geographic moment, like, when you see those
hmm
things out in the wild, it's not the same as seeing them in zoos and
no,
captivities.
it's so much more beautiful. I agree. It's special too, because you don't always get 100% opportunity to see one.
Yeah, they were just at Tacoma, remember? I was telling you about that just last
hmm
week. They're out jumping around, showing off. I thought that was really awesome.
So let's move on to a little bit lighter story that I want to end on. It's really sweet. There's Atlantic orca who've been up to some mischievous behavior in recent years. These orca near the Strait of Gibraltar have been tearing up boats and even sinking them. There had been theories that maybe a boat had hurt a pod member and the orca were coming back for revenge, but researchers have concluded that these particular orca are just playing around, just having a little fun, that's all. There's been a recent abundance of local tuna, so these orca do not have to go far or put much energy into hunting, so they got time on their hands. And what better pastime than messing with people's boats? They will push or ram into the rudders, sometimes breaking them. The rudder is on the front of the boat used to steer it. They'll also ram into the body or hull of the boat and sometimes damage it so severe that the boat sinks. No one has lost their lives from these attacks, just their boats. In fact, no human has ever been killed by an orca, like I said before, except in captivity. So for me, that says orca do not want to eat us, but in captivity, they eventually become tired of the circus show, and rightfully so. Orca belong in the ocean.
Well, I can add to that with the whole. I mean, I can't remember this terminology. I listened to this podcast that was way too long, but where they talked about things that orcas do for either fun or, because they get bored.
Mhm.
We don't know because we're trying to humanize something that's not a human.
Yeah.
There's a terminology for it. It's a long, scientific word. But what
Mhm.
we would try to put our feelings onto this, wild animal, like you
Right.
can't determine why they're doing what they're doing. Like you said, maybe they're bored. Maybe they're, curious. You never know why they do what they do. But there was this whale that put a fish on its head and kind of swam around with the fish in the head, on his head or her head. And they're like, oh, he's trying to wear it like a hat or something like that. And they're like, you don't know why they're doing it. They could just be doing it for fun or because they're bored or saving it for later because they're not hungry. We don't know why they do what they do. But I thought that was like another interesting aspect of who knows why they do what they do.
Yeah, but I think also us putting our emotions on them is probably what helps people like Dr. Visser in her research, right? When you build a relationship with them and kind of superimpose our cognitive thinking and our emotions, that's probably saved a lot of animals' lives. So it
Right.
can
Kind of
go
a double-edged.
because when I think of, that mama carrying her baby, I think of how much I love my children. And when I think of them tearing up these boats, I think of little boys crashing cars and, digging in the dirt with their little tractors and stuff, like they seem relatable to us in some ways, which makes you fall in love with them, right?
Right.
Even though they're like cats of the sea, just ruthless hunters, and sometimes they hunt just for the hunt of it too, like if there's an abundance, or they play with boats if there's abundance, I guess. But
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's a good thing. Oh, I can't believe you just said cats of the sea because I was literally like thinking in my mind like about lions, and out in their
Mhm.
hunting behavior, and it's just is similar.
They like hunt together, they lean on each other, they play with their food, possibly carrying it around on their head, or just
Yeah,
like little
that's a
toddlers.
funny picture I have in my head of that
Mhm. So
whale. Was it whale that you were talking about doing that? That did that?
With
no,
that
it
fish
was,
on the head?
yeah, the killer whales, right, Heather? You
Right.
were saying
Yeah.
they
They
had
had
fish
a,
hats.
Oh, it was an orca. Oh,
Yeah, yeah,
yeah.
yeah. Like
And they were
playing,
trying to be
they
like,
could
oh, he's
possibly just
wearing
be
a,
playing with their food.
yeah. Like, oh, he's wearing a hat. We don't know why. Like,
Don't
maybe he thinks
overcomplicate it.
it's funny. Like,
yeah, who knows?
look,
Funny, saving a
Mm.
snack for later. We don't know. I mean, like,
yeah,
if they don't have pockets.
right.
Yeah, they don't have pockets.
So,
Oh, so funny.
reminds me of Napoleon Dynamite where he puts his tater tots in his pocket.
Yeah.
I mean, just saving it for later. You don't know why
Probably
he's doing it.
exactly what it is.
I think that's
Napoleon
more
Dynamite of the sea.
right. Yeah. Yeah, Laura, I mean, I don't know. This is just like I don't know if it's a fun fact, but it's a fact where if you can watch on Disney, it's called Queens. I know I've said this probably 100 times to you, Laura, but there's a bit on orcas and, because they're the matriarch of the pod. Or
Mhm.
there's this one, and I might say it incorrectly, but you can go watch it where there's this matriarch and she has her pod and her son. And so she always wants her line to go on, meaning have her son breed with the female.
Mhm.
Well, I think it was her pod, and this female either got pregnant by like a rogue bull or one within the pod. I don't know, but she already had a calf, and the mom and the son killed that calf because
Mm.
the matriarch wants her son to breed with that cow, so her line goes on. So they kill, even though like I was thinking, like they're taking a huge risk because I mean they don't know that they're endangered or anything like that. But they killed her calf just so that her line can go on as the matriarch. So I thought that was an interesting fact of kind of the brutality of things.
Mhm.
But it's very similar to lions too, where a lion will kill the cubs, which is also on this Queen's thing on Disney.
Right.
And but he's so stupid that they trick him into thinking those are his cubs. But I don't know if that same applies to orcas, but I was like, what an idiot. And females being so smart to trick him into thinking those are his cubs. Anyhow, fun as far as how important their line to go on is like genetically to be that smart. You know what I mean? To be like, our line must be the prominent genetic line in this pod.
Yeah. Superior.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So there's the brutality of the wild orcas. So yeah, I don't think it should be the norm for us to leave them alone. It is not the norm to have them in captivity. And anybody that in other countries that are listening to this, is if this is happening in your country, try to make a difference and don't allow them to get any new ones. I mean, I understand some are already there and they have to pass away because they can't be reintegrated, but let's not steal any more babies. No more kidnapping. That's not normal.
Also, I just don't think it's the norm in the animal kingdom to have these kinds of bonds and these kind of intelligence, right? Like these orca are pretty special. That's why it doesn't work for them to be in captivity, aside from the physical, but the mental. Like they really go crazy. They can't communicate with each other. They don't speak the same language.
Right.
Each pod is so unique. So
It's a very lonely life.
yeah,
It's like being in prison for no
Yes,
reason.
It is.
It's sad. I mean, we would never allow that to another human. We would never allow a human to steal a baby, put them in captivity, and and show them off as for money. I mean, I guess I should take that back.
I guess we had circus shows back in the
Yeah.
day, but I mean, it's wrong.
Mm-hmm.
And
So
we
if we
know
don't
that
allow
it's
that
wrong.
anymore, we shouldn't allow it in any of the animals either.
Yeah. Like I said, do your research, support the businesses that you feel good about supporting. So, and that's all that I have for today. Thank you so much, everybody, for listening. If you haven't, look back at past episodes. We've got some really good ones that we've done in the past, and we got some good ones cooking up for the future. So stay with us, keep in touch. Thank you so much for being here. We'll see you next time.
Thank you, Laura. That was great.
Yeah, that was awesome. Thank you.
All right.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.